Hi trainers, I'm Teeds. How's it going? We have a bunch of things coming to Pokemon Unite very soon in the next coming days. Tomorrow I think is the new patch or the new balance. I'm not too sure. I think it is tomorrow. And then on the 21st we have this new event that's coming, and we also have Mew coming to the game as well, who is apparently free too. So I'm looking very forward to that. Alchika Eevee said there wasn't a trailer, which makes me really sad because I think there's a lot of hype things coming to the game. I had this timestamp for you as well, so you can just click to the next thing that you want to watch. But first thing we're going to go through first is this new event. So it is a tower defense mode. It looks insanely fun, and Alchika Eevee has shared some really valuable info on how this is going to work, or what we can expect from these Pokemon that are going to be in the game, which is like Gen 9 Pokemon including, and Tinkaton. Oh, it's so fun. So the map looks like it's going into 3 different lanes, and I believe that Pokemon will be spawning from these lanes, and you want to basically protect Tinkaton, who will be in the middle. And if these Pokemon defeat Tinkaton, I'm assuming you're going to lose. So here's what we know. I am so sorry if I pronounce any of these names wrong. Huge shout out to Alchika Eevee again for sharing these. So we have Vespiquen, who will repeatedly summon combis, so ignoring it is sure to create trouble. Basically, it is there to create Pokemon to overwhelm you. So it's probably going to be low health Pokemon. They're probably going to be easy to KO, but it's going to keep spawning combis and combis and combis. And if you just ignore it, it's just going to be so much on the map for you that you might just lose just because you're not getting rid of these Pokemon. So Vespiquen is definitely a Pokemon that is just there to create something to make you probably ignore more important objectives, make it harder to get to more important objectives, like just basically the little guys in the game that are going to make it super difficult to push through. And if you just leave it for too long, there's going to be too many, you're going to be overwhelmed. Next we have is Hooper Unbound, who will attack you alongside the wild Pokemon it summons with Hyperspace Hole. You don't want to let your guard down. From this, I'm not sure if Hooper Unbound is going to be spawning Pokemon from its Hyperspace Hole, or if it means that it's going to be teleporting Pokemon with its Hyperspace Hole. I'm going to assume it's maybe teleporting some wild Pokemon from its Hyperspace Hole that maybe already exists on the battlefield. I'm not too sure about that one, but that's going to be super hard to deal with as well. Next we have Sableye, who hides away and spreads fake Aeos energy around with Feint Attack. Try to predict where it is and chase it down with your allies. So Sableye is going to be so pesky, and it's going to just run around, spawn fake Aeos energy. You definitely want to avoid those, and you don't want to take any damage from this guy. He's just there to be probably like a little fly just to annoy you. Since it's hiding and it's basically invisible, you do have to predict where it is. Maybe you can't even see where it is, and you have to try and judge where it is based on the Aeos energy. I'm not sure if it pops up from time to time, but we'll see. Venusaur uses a powerful solar beam from afar, get in close and try to draw its solar beam towards you. It looks like Venusaur might, from what I can see here, I'm assuming it's going to be attacking Tinkaton is what I think. So you probably want Venusaur to attack you instead and not the Tinkaton. I don't know if this means that Venusaur is attackable, because it just says get in close and try to draw it closer to towards you, unless it means that you can go and attack it as well. It's just not saying it. But Venusaur seems like it's going to be doing a lot of damage from a distance, so you definitely want to keep note of that. Next we have is Bellibolt. I don't know if I said that right. Recovers health based on the damage dealt by its parabolic charge. Get away from it when it starts charging electricity. Okay, so you want to get away from this Pokemon. You don't want to be close to it when it's charging, or when it starts charging electricity. Probably does damage around it or something like that. Then we have Abra, who runs away using teleport after receiving damage. Defeat it in one blow. So you basically want to get Abra as quick as you can before it teleports away. And the last thing we have here is if you defeat a Alolan Meowth first, a Alolan Persian will get angry and start attacking you. Being mindful of the order you defeat them in. Okay, so this one you definitely want to attack a Alolan Persian first, and then you want to attack the Alolan Meowth. So you got to be very careful in the order that you do this in. From what I've read, it sounds super strategic, so I'm really loving this. I'm such a huge fan of tower defense games, so having this as a game mode in Pokemon Unite is basically, I already wanted a MOBA, but now I get a tower defense. Hello. That's amazing. Now, I've spoken about these patch notes earlier in the month, so here's a quick recap of everything that's to come with the balance patch. So just so you're not confused, like, wow, this Pokemon is so strong, or like, oh my god, this Pokemon is so weak, stuff like that. So first we have Umbreon. The heal has been decreased on its boosted auto attack, so we have a nerf on that. Cooldown has been increased, and some stat changes. For Wish, the cooldown has been decreased, so we're getting a buff on Wish. For Snarl, we're getting a nerf on that, so the damage of that and the stun duration is less. For Snarl Plus, the stun duration is less as well. So Umbreon is generally just getting a nerf with a small buff. Next we have is Chandelure. Chandelure's Overheat has been increased in cooldown. Overheat Plus, the same for that. And in Prison, that also has a cooldown increase. So Chandelure is getting a nerf, and it's just basically getting a bunch of cooldowns increase. Next we have is Leafeon. Leafeon I think is is getting a buff for Solar Blade and a buff for Aerial Ace where the cooldown has been decreased, and Leaf Blade is getting a nerf with the damage being decreased and the cooldown being increased. Next we have is Duraludon. The boosted auto attack for Duraludon, the max damage to wild Pokemon has been decreased. Flash Cannon is receiving a cooldown reduction, so that is a buff. Dragon Pulse is getting a buff as well with cooldown reduction. Now, all of this has like max damage to wild Pokemon attached to it as well, which is getting a nerf. So within that ability, that is being nerfed. And then we have Stealth Rock, which is getting a buff as well with the speed increase. I can't see the last part, so I don't know what it says there. Next we have is Dragonite, which is getting a nerf to Hyper Beam with a cooldown increase. Next we have is Lucario, who is getting a buff on extreme speed. The damage is more, close combat cooldown reduction, and the Unite move cooldown reduction, and it launches faster. So Lucario generally is just getting a buff. Zeraora is getting a buff as well, especially with the big learning level changes. So now it's just -1 to them. So now you get your moves earlier. And Wild Child is getting a nerf, but I think the level changes are going to make such a big difference for Zeraora regardless. Next we have is Mamoswine, who is getting a buff. The ability Thick Fat, the duration has been increased, and the defense and stuff. Ice Fang, the damage has been increased. Earthquake, the damage has been increased as well, and the Unite move, the cooldown has been decreased, and the opponent throwing has been increased. Next we have is Jigglypuff, the cooldown of Sing has been decreased. Next we have is Goodra. Godra's ability Gooey, the attack speed has been increased. Dragon Pulse, the cooldown has been decreased, and Power Whip, the movement speed reduction has been changed from 50% for 2 seconds to 80%, diminishing 15% every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds. And next we have is Inteleon, who is generally getting a buff as well in terms of damage and in distance. And lastly we have is Zoroark, who is getting stat changes, and that is, I believe, to be a nerf, if I can remember correctly. Okay, so those are the changes that we have, I believe, for tomorrow. I'm actually very excited about this because this patch is really big. There are a lot of changes coming to the game. I actually, to be honest, my biggest thing that I'm excited for is Zeraora's changes and weekly. Even though Weekly's one isn't that like huge, it is still a buff, and I actually really enjoyed playing Wiggly, even though I despised it so much when it was meta. But it was just fun to see my enemies just not be able to do anything. So I'm very excited about those. For the question of the day, since I forgot to ask, which change are you most excited for? I do think generally for me, I'm more excited for Zeraora's change. While I don't play that much of Zeraora at the moment, I think Zeraora's playstyle is kind of fun, and I really do want to get into it. If I get it for my Nuzlocke, I will definitely do that. Other things that we are looking forward to, because it is the big 2nd year anniversary, we do get the Mewtwo licenses for free. We only get Mewtwo, the melee one. And I do have a video on like how the event works. So if you want to search it up, just type in SuperTeeds, how to get Mewtwo for free. Otherwise, we will have like a visual thing on the day that it comes, which is I think on the 21st, I think. I'm very, very excited about that. I would love to know your opinion as well, guys, on what you think about it being basically the same license. I am a bit sad that there's not really much difference between the two licenses, apart from like some subtle changes, or like, you know, one is ranged and one is melee. But because they both, in like lore wise and description wise, they actually do different things, it did make me sad that we didn't get to see some of the things that were talked about when looking at their like actual abilities and skills. So I'm sad about that, but hopefully it'll be really cool. And also it seems like you can't use both licenses in one game. So basically you can't have 2 Mewtwo's in one game, like on one team. At least on the PTS, it seemed like that didn't work. You couldn't pick X and Y in the same team. So we shouldn't have to worry about that whole double ult thing and everything like that. Okay, so that is all for this video. Thank you so much for watching, trainers, and I hope to catch you for the next one. Bye!